Whoa. What's up?
What's happening with the music, KP?
You're live, man.
I know we older people, but good
What's going on? How
Lord.
you guys feel out there today in Hollywood, Las
K-
Vegas, New York, wherever you might be, Fresno? You want to turn the
KP,
music, the sound on?
it's on.
Off.
Oh,
There you go. There you
oh.
go. Sometimes you got
Gotcha.
a little
Okay,
brother got to
thank
help
you.
the big brother.
Hey, everybody. It's
Tuesday.
obviously it's Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. This is In Touch with the Miller Boyzzz, your weekly talk show where we talk about and discuss all things impacting the African American community of the city of Fresno and the larger surrounding area. As usual, we just go top of the dome. As my brother liked to say, this is an opinion show, although I'll sprinkle in some facts as we go along. But it's always our pleasure and honor to be here with you. Anything you want to say before I do my normal?
No, go ahead, bro. I
Okay.
got a whole bunch of stuff to say.
Go to your computer right now and do your census.
Fill out your 9 questions. It's over.
2020census.org. I know I'm screaming because I'm excited. Everybody needs to go out and get your census. KP, please put it up. There we go, at the bottom of the screen on the Chiron. I just learned that not too long ago. That's where you need to go, is 2020census.org. As Gerald said, it's 9 questions. That's what you said, Gerald?
That's it, brother.
9 questions. Takes you less than 5 minutes to get it done.
Are we?
Remember, the census is based off of not individuals. It's based off of the address. So whoever lives in that address, whether it be
Individual.
full-time or part-time, you need to make sure that you add them into your census count as you're going through there. It's a pretty simple process. We, in the city of Fresno, in the Central Valley, can't afford to not have people counted. So even if you're not a citizen, you need to be, or should be, or can be counted in the census. Please understand that. Even though you're not an American citizen, if you're living in the United States, you should be counted in the census. So there is no question about that. Again, 2020census.org. Please make sure you go there and get that done ASAP.
And that goes for young people too. College students, I'm looking right at you. If you live on a college campus, you should be checking in with your university to see if they filled it out for you or if you needed to fill it out for yourself. If you're living in off-campus housing, then you need to make sure you're checking your mailbox to see if your apartment complex is doing it. They're probably not doing it for you. And then if you've been in transition, like if you left your apartment after April 1st, but you spent the first part of the year in your apartment, then that means you should be filling out your census in your original address, like your local address, not your permanent address. These are all things that are important for us to learn and talk about as well because we are adults and it is affecting us. And if we're not counting ourselves, that's going to take out funding for our education, for our infrastructure, and our neighborhoods as well. And it's doubly important that our people are being counted during this. So.
Okay, so without further ado, I was trying to hold off to introduce you to our guest, but since she did that, and thank you for the input, because I did not know all the details of that. Ms. Angelique Jackson is our guest this evening, and we're going to be talking with her a lot more later on. Obviously, you can see she's not shy, so that's going to add in. She's telling us about how nervous she was being here with the Miller Boyzzz in our unscripted format.
Because we dangerous.
But anyway, so we'll get back to Ms. Jackson here in a second, but she's absolutely correct. As I said, the census is based off of where you live, the address where you live. So she's absolutely correct. If you're living in temporary housing, which could include dorms, could include apartment complexes while you're away at school, please make sure that you're counted there. But additionally, if you spend any time at your residence, especially now with COVID, with the dorms and things being shut down, people doing work from home, please make sure that you're also accounted for part-time with your parents' home or whatever home base is for you. So you can be accounted for at both addresses. So that is important that we do that. So the other part about it is we have an election coming up. It's 154 days, 153 days from now. It's June 3rd. It's going to be our next election cycle. Everybody needs to go and make sure that they get registered. Or even if you're registered and you haven't registered here recently, you need to go back and re-register. Because remember, in the state of California for this November election, all ballots are going to be mailed to people at home. So we're 100% vote by mail participants this year. And they're going to validate whether or not your ballot is legitimate based off of whatever signature is on record at your county secretary's office. So those of you who got registered in 1956 and you ain't been back since, I would suggest that you go back and re-register and redo your signature so there's no complications and no confusion with your signature. So that's important also. And to do that, you would go to register 20 vote. Anyway, you got it up there, KP. I'm gonna jack this all up.
Spit it out.
Anyway, register to vote, all letters, .ca.gov. Again, that's register to vote, all letters, .ca for California.gov, which is the governmental site. So please make sure that you go on there. You can also do it at the DMV. You can also go down to the county clerk's office down on Kern Street and do your registrations there as well. So please make sure you get your census done, and please make sure that you are registering or re-registering yourself to vote for the November election, which is going to be 100% vote by mail. G-Mill.
¿Qué pasó?
What's up?
Oh, I'm just, trying to figure out what your president is up to over there.
He's my president tonight?
No, he ain't nobody president.
Yeah,
For
I
y'all
agree.
fools that voted for him, my goodness.
Yeah. I
Totally
agree.
So I have a couple questions, So does his declaration one step below martial law last night, is this how he wants to be recognized as a wartime president? He's tried it 3 different times.
Yeah, the word on the street, in the political street, is that yes, he wants to be a wartime president. He has spoke about that in previous tweets, 2012 with Obama, talked about Reagan's war that he had, of course the Iraq war with Bush too. So yeah, he is looking for a war because wartime presidents who are up for re-election get re-elected. But he don't have anybody to pick a fight with. So some people are saying that he's picking a fight.
Well, he
here in the United
declared
States.
war, unless you guys have a difference of opinion, on the United States citizens last night when he went out there and moved citizens of the United States with the military force, tear gassing and concussion grenading them off of a post or off of their spot so that he could take a photo op.
So he can only do that in one place in the United States. You know that, right? And that's in D.C. He cannot make that declaration without some other things happening in a state.
Correct.
It's only the governors who can make those types of declarations right now.
Right, I understand that. So then in his speech, he told a lie there also. When he said, if you governors don't do it, then I will send the military in to do that for you.
Basically, he would have to declare, I believe it's martial law, it might be something else, but he has to make another higher declaration that basically he's going to become the...
So how do you feel about that?
I don't feel good about it at all.
Make your tummy hurt, make your head hurt?
I don't make my tummy
Feel
hurt.
good?
I mean, it's bad that we as a United States citizenry has to go through this in order to get to right. That's the part that bugs me about this. And this dude is putting up all kind of roadblocks, not based on what's the good of the people, not based on what's good of his contingency. He's doing this to get reelected. He's doing this for the self-grandizing of Donald Trump. And that's the part that really, 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 truly bugs me. Even with George Bush, who was a Republican, who I didn't agree with, at least he thought, although I'm saying on my side it's a wrong decision, at least he made a decision which he thought was for the benefit of his side of the ledger, which was good for him. Donald Trump makes decisions based on what's best for Donald Trump. Like somebody was saying that he had to, when he was at the Pope's Memorial Day or at his museum, he had to turn to his wife and tell her to smile. They said she stood up there like a hostage. I don't know if you guys, did you see the picture? The two of them standing up there?
Hostage in the word that she is starts with the same letter, but I ain't gonna even go in there.
But that's how she got here. That's how her parents got here. But anyway.
What word starts with a J? Javier! Yeah, okay.
But to go back to your original question, the dude is wrong.
Okay.
And I agree with you that the people who voted for him were wrong also. They voted for the wrong person. The part that really, really concerns me is there's a huge group in there who didn't vote at all. And it's people who are on our side of the ledger, the Democratic side of the ledger, who sat out of that election. That's the part that concerns me. How are we going to get that group of folks motivated to participate? Because if we participate at higher rates, more than likely the Democrat or the people who are on the progressive side of the ledger will win. Statistics show you that.
Yeah, that's very true.
So Ms. Jackson, what are your thoughts about your president? And I'm gonna give him to you now.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What are
Well,
my thoughts?
nobody wants him, so we just keep passing like a hot potato.
I think that I've been less concerned with what the president has to say, and I've been more concerned with what the people of this country have to say. So I can be real and say that I try very hard not to interact with him, because the way that I see it, we still have governors and county officials that, we have to get through before he can even touch us. So I think first and foremost, I'm going to focus on the people within my immediate community. But I do still feel for the people in D.C., and I'm definitely livid with the fact that he felt it was necessary to, pretty much call war on a group of innocent people, your own citizens. It's like, if that doesn't show you that all they really care about is their capital gain, then I don't know what else will.
So think about it, as the picture that Gerald shared, he didn't even declare war, so-called, on violence. I mean, people who were the looters and the criminalistic side of what's going on. Those were peaceful protesters of a religious kind of tainting that he shot tear gas at to clear them out, looting, going down the street, going crazy, they were doing all kind of stuff, but to clear them out so he can have a photo op, a Hitler-esque photo op with a Bible in his hand.
I wish.
I mean, but that's what I mean about it all
really
being about him. That wasn't about the Republicans. That wasn't about the conservatives. That wasn't about people. That was about him.
Absolutely.
And you cannot that's why the very reason why he became president, people that voted for him says because they voted for him because he's not a politician. And I'm saying that's exactly what we have right now. We do not have a politician. We do not have a statesman. We have a showman. We have a performer. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. He's performing in the office of presidency rather than being a statesman and a politician, which we need to be able to lead. And, you got to stay in your lane. And right now, Donald Trump is out of his lane so far. And it's not a matter that if he crashes, that it's just him and the Trumps that's going to crash. If he crashes, he's taking down the whole United States with him.
That's very true.
And so that's the issue for me with him. So going back to what your original question was, that's my feelings about him as my president. That he is, somebody need to cut that cord. Those conservatives that are supporting and propping him up need to cut that cord. Let him,
Well, for me, that's the issue. It's not the clown in the suit in the middle of the square dancing. The issue is that all the people that are around him throwing him monies and bananas and fruit to make the monkey jump. That's the issue. The people that voted him in, because once again, we're going to agree that he did not win the popular vote. So he lost the popular vote by 3 million votes. So if he is in that position to do that, then like you said, people need to cut him, but they cut the strings. But they're not going to do that. They believe, as much as you believe that you're in the right, they believe that they're in the right. And that goes back to what I always say, the race between what are classified in the United States and only in the United States as white folks and the African American. They are in a race to win, to win the monetary, to win.
Bingo. The monetary.
I don't need any confirmation.
Yeah, you do.
No,
Bingo.
I don't.
It's about money, and that's where the umbilical cord is going to be. In my estimation, that's when the umbilical cord is going to get cut, which people are starting to cut it now. Is that people are, as long as Donald Trump was in office and people were making monetary gains, they were making monies, the stock market is up, and everybody's doing with it, raking in all that money and money. Okay, yeah, he's a buffoon. He's my buffoon, though, making money for me. So, yeah, he can stay in that office. This whole coronavirus and what's going on with this economy and stuff, when these numbers start to come out and how much money we've actually lost and how much people, these large companies, industries, Walmart, that kind of stuff, is going to be hitting the pockets. These protesters now that are looting and tearing, and they stole, what, $300,000 or whatever it was, a jewelry here in town. I mean, when they get all that dust covered, and people start seeing, this dude is painted this picture where we're losing money, oh, they're going to cut him like a hot knife through butter. And they really don't have to cut him. All they got to do is not vote for him.
Right.
We're 150 days from an election, so they really, truly, they got bailed out.
So here's the next question. Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna ask, do you think in 150 days he could change something up?
Oh yeah,
He
yeah,
could fix
yeah.
something?
So the most dangerous animal, second dangerous animal on earth, is a cornered animal. If you corner a mouse over there in the corner, before it just rolls over and plays dead, it's gonna flare up and do all that kind of stuff. That's what Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is being cornered. And he is very, 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 very extremely dangerous. That goes back to Gerald's point about this war type of stuff. And like you said, he just declared war on the United States citizens. That's treason. That's borderline treason.
But the people that are around him, protecting him, are not going to do that.
Agreed.
They're not going to cut ties with him. They're not going to stop him from doing, because they don't see themselves as doing wrong. That's just the mechanical makeup of the human being. As long as you don't think that you're doing wrong and you can get away with it, you're going to continue to, as we were planning to talk about, break the social contract.
Hey, your girl Tessa on here had a great one. She said Satan owned Bibles too.
I don't believe in the devil.
I got you, but I'm just saying in general that is absolutely true. I
don't.
The negative folks, the negative side of
Spirituality.
There you go. Thank you. That word understands, and some people, in some cases, understand the Bible more than true Christians do. That's the best way to be able to get at somebody, is to understand and study who they are and understand better than who a person is, better than they do. Now you can always twist things on them.
Okay. All right.
And so, thank you, Tessa. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So, okay. So, if we can kind of turn that to come back locally. This Sunday, I witnessed. I'm 54 years old. I've been living in Fresno all but 2 years of my life, and Sunday was one of the most moving scenes I've ever seen in my life. Now, I was part of the first Dr. Martin Luther King March when they first started here in 1983. I was a junior. I think I was a junior. It might have been in my senior year, February, January. So it would have been my junior year. The very first march that they had here in Fresno was formed downtown, and they had a march. I was part of that. I've been part of some big, huge political things. But Sunday was something that I've never, ever, ever experienced at the level at which it was done.
Thank you.
And so that's why I wanted to introduce you to the community as well as to my brother, because you were co-coordinator in that whole movement.
Yeah.
And so tell us about what happened on Sunday, how it all came together, what exactly did happen, because I didn't tell them exactly what happened. And I'll leave that up to you since you created it.
So this was definitely a community effort. I want to say, first off, this event was completely planned, coordinated, and just executed by young people all under the age of 25. So just the weight of that, I feel like, especially when I'm talking about my generation and the people that I represent, it becomes so much more, real, so much more attainable, and just much more joyous for me to realize that this is something that I did with me and my friends.
How many people were part of the whole group?
So there was myself, Joshua Slack, Denise Rogers-Height, Sydney Cardona, Sophie Karras, Ezra Cato, Serenity White Ilole.
You know what happens when you start
Jimmy
calling off
Haney.
names? You're gonna forget some people.
No, that's the people
So
right there.
8 people?
Yeah,
And what was the estimation of the crowd? that came?
3,500 people.
So 3,500 people. I was way under my estimations in my posts on Facebook. But
No, there was packed in there. People was telling me that I was speaking, and the very back of the procession was literally just people taking photos and chilling and like looking around.
I couldn't hear because where I was in the back. I couldn't hear.
You couldn't hear anything.
That's how far away I was, especially when we got over by the police department. I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
But I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying that's how large the crowd was, that it was large enough to be able to push me away far enough where I couldn't hear what was going on.
We didn't even we didn't think that it was gonna be something like this. To be honest, we didn't.
What were your expectations? What did you expect to happen?
So I'm thinking like, maybe between, the 8 of us, we could probably, pull like maybe 300 people, cool 200 to 300. So honestly, we really thought because it was only 48 hours away, closer to 100, maybe around 80. Like we didn't think it was gonna be big. So when we started doing this, it was, what really sparked it is just looking around at the media, really being just engulfed in what's happening in all these different places, watching what's happening specifically in Minneapolis, and just all the details of the case of George Floyd just coming, to the surface, and just seeing just the way that the country was erupting. Me and Josh, he came over, we were watching Black Panther documentaries, because for us it was like, like they really did start something great here. So how can we as the young generation, how can we pick this back up? Because that's the reason why, we have our free school lunch program. So it's like there are things that we can cause and we can change, because this is done by people that are our age. And then while we were watching the documentaries, all of a sudden we're starting to see posts about Black Lives Matter protests happening in Fresno. And we're like, whoa, like this is kind of frustrating, because we're looking on all of our friends' socials and we can't find anything. So then we reach out to everybody that we can that's posting it, and we're asking them like, hey, can you get us in contact with whoever is organizing this? And we ended up like getting into maybe like 5 or 6 different group chats. And just, it was in there, like it was probably, in one group chat there was one black person. And all the other group chats, it was all like non-black people. And so we were in these chats, like trying to explain to these people, like, if you guys are really supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement, then, you'll be working with us. But then it was like Friday, I went to the San Jose protest. And while I was there, I'm going there expecting to be surrounded by like people my age, older. Like I'm thinking this is like a real thing, because they're talking about it's gonna get real. So we get there, and I'm surrounded by like teenagers and little kids. Like somebody was really out there with their little sister, because their mom said you can't leave the house unless you take her with you. Like it was one of those cases, like marching with high schoolers. So like the scenes that we are seeing from San Jose, like those were babies. And I was on the front lines. Like I remember they started going in the street, and I was like, hey, you guys don't have a permit. The second I got there, I realized it was just so unorganized. It was literally like someone put a flyer out there and people just showed up. Like people just showed up.
Did you guys get a permit from the city?
They actually absolved our requirement to have a permit for this event.
When you say they, who was it? City council?
Yeah, the city council.
Okay. Good for them.
Yeah, it was.
I know that they
cool.
were there. I saw 3 of the 7 city council people there on Sunday. It doesn't mean there wasn't more. Arias was there.
Yeah,
Soria was there. Carbasi was there. I believe Carbasi was there. Maybe I confused when I saw it today. But I know Soria and Miguel Arias were there both, because I got a chance to speak to both of them.
I'm a fan of Soria. She's really cool.
She is. She's a very, very cool person. So I'm happy to hear that the city stepped in. And that's the other part that I wanted to ask you about. Did you have any interactions with the police department in the organizations of the event?
Yeah.
How did that go?
So once again, like going back to San Jose, when those babies started going up and the police formed their line, it was black people in the front, and it was like predominantly non-black people in the back, and the people we saw starting to throw stuff at the police officers was mainly non-black people. So for me, I'm sitting there trying to talk to the sergeant like, yo, like let's just give me a second, let me try to get them under control. My friend next to me like drops her sign, she goes to pick it up, and they just start just going in, and I'm looking to my right, I'm seeing
police started?
Yes, okay. Like they hit her with the baton. It was like 4 of them. It took like 3 of us to pull her back. Like and then I look over to my left and I'm seeing this little girl, like she was maybe like 12 or 13, get hit with tear gas.
And this was on Friday?
Yeah, this was at the San Jose protest.
Okay,
like
I'm not
before it
familiar
got,
with that. Okay.
it was crazy. So all of this stuff is happening. I'm like, man, like there are kids here. So I went back to Josh and I'm like, okay, if we're gonna do this, then we need to do it right. Like I'm not gonna risk. I would refuse to be the leader that leads my people or anyone for that matter into a bloodbath. I'm not gonna do it. So it didn't matter if we only got 2 people out there or if we got 3,500 people out there. It didn't matter to me. So
that was pretty quick turnaround. If you were in San Jose on Friday and the march was on Sunday, so you were having ongoing conversations, I'm assuming all day on Saturday with the police department?
Yeah, so it was, we've been talking about it. So while I was so we started planning it on Thursday. That's when I got in contact with the city. I contacted the Parks Department because I looked online. I saw that's where permits go through. So I reached out to them, and then it was like we started planning stuff. I told people, like, okay, let's get this Facebook page made. We're in the group chat. Everybody's delegating tasks. Like, people are starting to do stuff. I'm at this event, and obviously my phone is blowing up, and I'm like, hey, y'all, I'm stepping away for the day because I want to be here fully with, this protest. I want to be able to learn from it, and I want to be able to experience it. And now I feel like I need to take care of people as well. So when I came back, I couldn't sleep. Like, I couldn't sleep at all.
Welcome to leadership.
It was just crazy for me to experience. So throughout the rest of that night.
So is this the KP? Is this the San Jose? Or this is
no,
Fresno?
that's us.
That's Fresno.
Okay.
That's us.
So here's a shot of the
Beautiful
crowd.
people.
So you can still keep talking. I see
Yeah,
you
sorry.
I see you admiring your work.
That's the work of the community right there.
Oh,
I played a very small part in this.
I
did.
You are being very, very, very humble right now.
No,
So we're going to get to that
honest.
part in a second. But tell us more about what was going on in San Jose.
I reached out to the department, or to the Parks Department, and I said I need a permit. Came back, reached out to Josh and Denise and Jimmy, and I was like, yo, like, I want to make sure that this event is as safe as possible. Then the next morning, I get a call from the Parks Department, and they're like, okay, well, we want to put you in contact with the chief of staff for the police department. And I was like, okay, cool. So they called me, and he's like, all right, so I heard about your event. Can you explain a little bit of it to us? Because, it's on Sunday, and, like, we have less than, like 48 hours to make this happen. So what do you need? Like, what's going on? And I was like, okay, well, this is what we want to do. We want to be able to host a protest. It's going to be about Black Lives Matter. And we want to be able to keep our people safe, because right now we're in a bunch of group chats with people who aren't black, and we're thinking that it's non-black people planning all of this. And all these protests turning violent throughout the country, and specifically what I saw in San Jose, I was like, I want to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. So then I guess, like, he heard what I said, and he was like, that was actually very moving. We just got in contact with city council and I guess leaders of the community. We're going to come together, have like a meeting. I guess the entire like city met for 90 minutes. And when they came out of it, they had approved our event, and then they absolved our requirement to obtain a permit. But at first,
thank you, City of Fresno.
It was amazing the way it happened, because it was like, I was just genuinely representing what me and these other 8 people wanted to, or these other 7 people wanted to happen. So it was like, when they did that, by that time the Facebook page maybe got to around like 200 people, and I think like maybe 800 people said that they were interested. So then we're like, okay, cool. We met with the chief of staff. I'm getting my days mixed up. It's been so long. We went to the San Jose protest on Thursday, and then on Friday, and now boom, Saturday is when we met with him the day before.
So you were in San Jose on Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, y'all.
You all right? You all right?
It's been long. It's been a long time. It's been a long few days. But so on Saturday, we're doing the walkthrough, and we're telling them like, oh yeah, we have like 300 people interested, 800 people coming. Or no, by that time we were like, we have 500 people interested, and over 1,000 people saying they're interested, or 500 people coming, 1,000 people saying they're interested. And he's like, okay, well, usually it's just about half of that. But then later, like less than an hour later, he calls me and he's like, all right, well, we actually, because of the size of this, we're just going to go ahead and block off the different streets, because now we're starting to see reports of protesters getting ran over, and we want to do everything we can to make sure that this protest is a success, and you guys have, the ability to share your message. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Who do you know? Who was that person? Do you remember?
Mike, police chief of staff, Mike. Okay. Officer Mike.
We will find out who it is, because that dude needs to be complimented as well.
I mean, the entire department was like, I'll say the higher ups of the department it was a very interesting experience. I didn't expect to go in there with them, I guess, being so willing to support, but at the same time, I was very adamant in letting them know, like, this is absolutely not this is not a protest for you. Like, this has no space for you. And they were they came back and told me, we don't want this to be about us at all. But I just was very adamant, like, okay, well, at the walkthrough, I told them, this is the content that we're going to be covering, and I want you to understand, like, I reached out, I got my people to bring our own form of security. I'm not going to, I didn't want to have it to where we're relying on them, because they told us, like, oh, we're getting EMT on standby and fire department will be on standby. So we wanted to make sure we did everything we could to make sure that didn't happen. So we got all of, like, the rest of, we just took care of all of it ourselves, pretty much. Like, we had over, I want to say, like, 15 paid paramedics and doctors on hand that were volunteering their time.
To people with the red,
yeah,
the red cross.
Yeah, they were everywhere. We had like different lawyers volunteering their time in green hats. That way, like, they could give people legal counsel while they were there.
That.
We had Ezra Cato in charge of our security, like our crowd control, and he was leading about, I want to say, like 20 to 30 black men that all came from the community.
It was more of us than that. It was
about
40 of us.
I'm saying, I was projecting like 50, but I was going to be like a modest, because I didn't want to say it, and then people would be like, nah, it's not that much. But I was like, it was a lot. A lot showed out to support us with that. And then we also had the Brown Berets partner with us and offer their security services. So
what was Peace Fresno's? I know that they were also, I don't know if they were just sending out the flyer or what exactly, but was their part of your partnership as well?
They might have just been sending out the flyer, but we had a lot of organizations reach out to us on Saturday specifically and offer their support, and like they wanted to sponsor us and do all that stuff. Like, we had a lot of people send us in donations, and a lot of organizations as well.
So I saw you beforehand. You were running around getting stuff done.
Yeah, you caught me with that interview. You saw him trying to catch me slipping.
And stuff. Was there any part during that day where you looked up and said, "Oh my God, what have I done?"
Yeah.
That it was too big. That wow, what happened? Or was it an aha or a wow moment for you?
Yeah, there's one specifically. So when we first started, it wasn't that many people there.
Yeah.
But I think as we started to go through our
About
prayer and go through our
2:45.
Yeah, like once we really started to, I guess, get into our agenda, I looked up and all of a sudden, like, I couldn't see the side of the street, like, going out, I think, towards Fresno, or Tulare, I don't know. I'm not
towards
really,
Tulare,
yeah.
Tulare Street.
Like, the entrance area that people were coming from, I couldn't see over there, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, there was people starting to come on the hill, and I'm like, all right. Looking around, I'm like, okay, it's maybe about, like, I'll say maybe 200 people here, maybe 100, honestly. But then all of a sudden, I just remember going through our speakers, and then I'm saying something, and I think it was specifically me saying, because, like, what did I say? It had something to do, like, you can't sit here and call yourself an ally, but then go and say the N-word in songs still, or something to that extent. And all of a sudden, like, the crowd just erupts and, like, clapping. I'm like, cool, because most of it, like, at least my talking was all improv. Like, I didn't prepare my speech at all because I was too busy preparing everything else. So I'm thinking about the next thing, and all of a sudden, waiting for the clapping to go down, everybody in front of me stops clapping, and it sounds like rain in the distance. And I was like, that's when I was like, whoa. And I went from thinking, like, okay, maybe 200 people to, like, maybe 500, maybe about 500. So to find out that it was, like, 3,500.
There was a steady stream, because I was over closer to the Tulare side, because remember we had that drone going over the top?
Yeah.
I was trying to find the person with the drone.
Oh, they found him.
To tell them to stop flying a drone over the top of the people. Fly it off from the side. So when I went over on that side, there was a steady stream of people coming to the protest until probably about 3:45. Just a steady stream. And it looked like people were getting off a bus or something.
Oh,
by
no. We had reports that there was 2 busloads of people coming from Oakland, California with the intention of rioting. So when you hear that, we were told that, we had multiple reports that day of people intentionally coming from different places to riot.
I didn't see
there was none.
Anybody,
That's, like,
except for the one guy right at the beginning, one of my former,
yeah.
We used to work together, Fresno High. And remember the guy yelling with the T-shirts, the yelling and screaming at the beginning? And he's yelling at the police officer?
I literally said, good morning, and all of a sudden I'm like...
Yeah, but his issue was with that particular sergeant. And I found that out after I went over and talked with him. And so I was like, listen, hey, man,
he was
listen, we're
saying,
trying
like,
to have
you
a peaceful.
tased me, you tased me.
Yeah, exactly. He got tased. I mean, we're having peaceful protests out here. I don't know what exactly. But that dude tased me. And like, listen, that's an issue you got to take up with him, not out here. And he was okay with it. But then the sergeant kind of became irritated with him. And I said, listen, his issue is with you, and y'all need to resolve that. If you need to take him away or whatever, you need to go resolve that. But that does not need to be part of this group's.
Right.
Because his being upset has nothing to do with our protest today. And so I don't think there was any other incidents. I know that there was one person who I guess got kind of, I don't know if it was faintish or what, but I know that there was one.
Oh my God, I'm not laughing because she fainted. It was like, I don't think people don't understand how, like, we really had the dream team with the way this event was planned and coordinated. Like, I realized just how many things were coming at me, and all of a sudden I said, okay, listen, I need to be able to delegate everybody a task. So I went to one of my my colleagues, our student or our advisor for NAACP, and I said, listen, can you please be my executive director? Like, everything needs to be filtered through you, because at this point, I just need to focus on peer organization, getting in contact with all these people and making sure everything's set into place. She's like, cool, I got you. And I was like, can you please be like lead, like volunteer coordinator? And then underneath that person, I was like, all right, you're in charge of security, you're in charge of paramedics, you're in charge of ice, refreshments, drinks, and things like that. You're in charge of PR and publicity. Nothing goes through you. Like, I just pretty much looked at it like, okay, I'm just gonna run this the same way that I run my organization, the way that I run my unit. So like, I'm up on stage, I'm talking, I'm just giving my welcome, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my goodness, back up, give her some room.
Yeah.
And I'm like trying to find it. I see her, and then someone's like, hey, why are you recording? So then I look this way, I'm like, yeah, what are you doing? Like, why would you record this? Like, there's so many other things you could be looking at during this moment. And then I look back, and the girl is gone. Like, that's how quick our paramedics team acted.
I don't think people understand that they were standing on their feet. Some people were standing on their feet probably about almost 5 hours.
5 hours? For us?
In general. There were
Why
no
should
seats
I?
out there for people to sit down.
We weren't out there 5 hours.
I got over there. I got there at 2 o'clock. I didn't leave until almost 4:30, and you guys are still going. I'm not saying the
we
event.
ended at 4:30.
But I'm not saying the event, but I'm just talking about the people that were around.
Oh, I see.
There were some people that were out there on their feet for 5 hours. And, you know, no matter what you do, if you're up that long and you haven't taken enough fluids and that type of stuff, your body's going to have a negative adverse
And
or
what's
have an
so
adverse reaction to it.
What I found out, because I thought about this after the event, like, I got a little scared because I realized all these people that I entrusted to do these tasks, I didn't see anybody except for Ezra Cato, because he was lead of security, and he was treating me like I was JFK reborn. Like, it was a second chance at life. It was, I really love that man. Like, that's really my dog for real. But so it's like, I lost my train of thought because that was phenomenal.
But I just think you kind of downplaying what you got accomplished. You really truly are downplaying. For you to be able to, you're telling us you got that done in maybe about 6 days, less than 7 days?
We got it done in less than 48 hours.
So, I mean, to be able to take that on, that's the impressive part about it. Because I know some people, organizations, leaders of organizations who have planned things 6 months and don't think about getting paramedics there. They don't think about having a conversation and delegating out roles. They try to do it all themselves, and things start to fall apart. So for you to be able to be in that capacity and understand it, I want to applaud you again and again and again. And that's why I reached out to you, to be able to have you come on the show to be able to tell the story.
But it was like, there was literally so many more people that was involved in this at such a deeper level. It really wasn't just me. Like, there are so many people that I could thank for this. And once again, like, it really started out as 4 kids who really just put a flyer out there. So all we did was put the information out there, and around 3,500 people decided that it was worth their time.
It could have been more.
We didn't come out, like, there was no videos promoting it.
Right.
Literally, all we did was put the flyer out there. We made a Facebook page. We stopped people when they tried to give people misdirection, and we showed them, like, literally, that's all we did. There was no video promotion. There was nothing. So, like, people came out there because they heard us say, if you are a non-black ally and you are planning a Black Lives Matter event without including us, that is wrong. This is the first time, at least to our knowledge, out of all of the protests that have occurred in Fresno, that is planned and made for by Black people. And I feel like a lot of people, like our allies, and Black people included, they heard that and it resonated with them. But I think originally they came to riot. They came to be upset, because Fresno Police Department deserves that much from the amount of things that they have swept under the rug. Like, there's no reason that they're considered more militant than that. So it's like these people came here for that. But instead, we said, I sat there and I thought to myself, we're not going to march. We're not going to march. We're going to sit there for at least 40 minutes. And I intentionally made sure that I had a slot ready for 6 different speakers. I made sure that for that first hour, we incorporated a prayer. We incorporated the Black National Anthem. We had poetry involved in it. We had a DJ that was blasting Black music. Like, I wanted people to understand this was a culture, this was an event made for and by Black people. And we were going to do it peacefully. Like, we had people hitting us up and saying, well, you should be doing this protest in North Fresno, because, like, that's where all the white people are. Shouldn't they see this? And it's like, I had to take the time to respond and be like,
everybody came. I mean, it was a definite mixed crowd, mixed
exactly.
gender,
But it was like,
ethnicities,
for me,
ideologies.
For me, it was like, for people to even have the audacity to say that, it's like, we spent so much, we were very blunt about everything. Anytime somebody came at us with something that was just wrong and, like, low-key, just, like, discriminatory, the fact that you would insinuate we have to go to white people when this whole thing is because we've been oppressed for so long, that is a part of the problem.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, and there were so many other facets to that we had to come out and let people know, yo, we're not here for that. We are here for Black people, and you guys will not come into this space and destroy something, the only thing that we have that belongs to us, like, as a people. Like, we don't even own it. We live here, but we don't own it, and you want to take it away from us? Are you serious? Like, go somewhere else and do that. Don't come here. Like, you're not going to come and mess with what it is we have here, the culture we're trying to build. And you will for sure not, as somebody who proclaims to be an ally, come into this event and start something, incite something with the police when we came ready with demands and ready to talk and showcase our culture and showcase that we are a peaceful people. Like, to showcase that the media is wrong when they paint us as being less than human. You will not come in here with that type of vibe. You will not come in here and put these babies that are marching in here at risk. Like, that was something that was very, very serious to me. Even during the process of organizing, having people who were helping us out come and say, like, yo, you shouldn't really be promoting it as being peaceful because that's not what Fresno needs. Like, we're going through a lot. And I'm like, yo, listen, if you've ever been on the front lines of a protest, if you have ever experienced what it's like to watch people around you go through that.
A lot of those people haven't.
And that's why I'm like, people don't resonate with the fact that I was out there with high schoolers and that was happening. So it was like, for me, saying that and having them know you were not going to come out here and hurt my little brothers and sisters. Like, if you are non-Black, you shouldn't be moving unless a Black person moves. Otherwise, like, that does not make you a true ally. Explaining to people, these white people in these group chats, like, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. said that the most dangerous thing towards the movement for Black liberation is the white liberal. And then being like, well, what does that mean?
That's
and then,
resonating with most of the marches throughout the nation at this point.
That's what I'm saying, because it's like, we put in group chats, multiple ones where you're like, it makes us uncomfortable that you guys are doing this without us. If you're allies, you will not do it. And we literally, in almost every single one, had somebody, at least one person, come in and say, well, it's like Black Lives Matter is just a movement. Like, it's not connected to a person. Why would you be upset as long as the message is still being pushed out? What? Like, and that's when we had to start sending out that message.
But I think that's that's the part that I really like about the protests and things that are going on. Damn the looting. I'm not talking about the people who are out there doing criminal acts. But the marches that you see, most of them are positive. And then most of them are dealing with people's frustrations.
Yeah.
And it's not always Black folks' frustrations. A lot of times, you got police chiefs now who are sitting and marching, crying on
That's fine
air.
with me. Just don't use the hashtag Black Lives Matter or the Black Lives Matter movement without including Black people in the process.
I understand. I'm not talking about Black Lives Matter. That's not the part that I'm talking about right now. I'm just talking about the overall message and the overall philosophies of what's going forward. And I agree with you. If you're going to use the Black Lives Matters moniker, then Black lives and Black people need to be involved in that. I agree with you. But there are so many other marches that's not directly... people's frustrations are boiling over, and it's not just Black folks. There's a bunch of people whose frustrations are boiling over, and that's somebody. I don't remember who it was, but somebody talked about this. So when Trayvon Martin got killed, there was an outcry of this. Even with Rodney King, with the beating with Rodney King and those things, and the police office, there was this upheaval, but there was nothing sustainable about it.
Exactly.
There's something different about what's going on now.
Yes, let's talk about it.
People don't, I mean...
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
No, I mean, there's a different feel about what's happening now. And a lot of people say it's this, and some people say it's this. I think it all is about your perspective. If it comes out of an African American person, they're gonna have one perspective of it. If it comes out of a white person's viewpoint, it's gonna have a different perspective. Comes out of an LGBT person, it's gonna have a different perspective. But finally, I think that all of those perspectives, although they're coming from different ways, are kind of being focused on the same issues. And maybe that's what's different about it. But I don't see people protesting just to be protesting in this case. There is going to be some resolution based out of this. And what it is, I don't know.
I think it depends on the area you're looking at for
True.
a lot of that. And I don't know. I definitely have a different opinion on how we got here and what's happening. I think that 2012, 2014 specifically with what happened with the Ferguson riots, like that's when Black Lives Matter as a movement really pushed off. But the issue was people were just angry, and nobody connected it with an organization. Black Lives Matter was just a hashtag. It was just a trend. So once, people became desensitized to it, all of a sudden you saw that Black Lives Matter waited too long to try to establish itself as an organization, and you had people popping up and saying that it was a chapter or like it was something else, but it couldn't sustain itself in too many different places. So ultimately, people just forgot about it, and all of a sudden, all of our allies just started looking at it as, well, all Black people do is complain because didn't you guys get something in 2012, 2014? But now it's like this time around, we've been saying it so much, people have no choice but to view what it looks like indoors. And on top of that, now we have Donald Trump in the White House. So now you have all of these white liberals who think that they're starting to feel what oppression feels like. They got that little salt crumb on it, and they're like, hey, I relate to you with this now. So now it's like they're more willing to open their eyes and look at our struggles. But when it comes down to it, when it really, really comes down to it, the difference this time is I was a freshman in high school when Trayvon Martin was killed. So I watched this through high school. I watched like it starting something, and then all of a sudden Donald Trump was president. Like that was like my transition through high school, through growing up, and everything that Donald Trump brought with him. So it was like everybody else that was my age saw the same thing. So when we saw that Black Lives Matter, that everybody was starting to listen to us again, I think we made a choice to say, we are not going to let people turn this into a trend. It's not just a hashtag anymore. Like, this is real. Like, there is no reason that somebody is dying because their esophagus was crushed, because that officer kept his knee there for 10 minutes. Like, there's no reason that the city of Minneapolis had to burn down half of its city just to get that officer arrested, and then he was only charged with third-degree murder. That was a pure display that people, like these corporations, these governments, like they don't care about us. This is all about capital gain. That's really the only reason that they reacted, was because they started losing their money. They started losing their property. It wasn't about the people. So like we're witnessing all of this, and we're seeing 2012, 2014 all over again, and we're saying this time we're doing it different. That's why when we first released the flyer, I was working behind the scenes trying to get NAACP to give me direct action approval. So that way I could attach it to the name of the NAACP, because to me it's like when you can anchor that into something that's sustainable, and it's like for me, if we can as a collective take Black Lives Matter as the hashtag and turn it into an organization, then I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna connect it to something, because I want people to be able to put a face to the name. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why we wanted to make sure we had that NAACP banner in the front. Like, this is us. Like, we are here, and we are here to represent, and we are here to change things.
We're gonna run out of time here.
I
But
think that.
Sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine. But I think what the introduction into this situation is an understanding. And if you take the person who was 4 years old, who doesn't know anything about politics when Barack Obama became president, and you add 8 to his 4, he's 12, 3 is 15. So all these people know is a black president. All you know is that African Americans can be civil in situations. So now that Donald Trump is in here, once again with his clown suit on, acting a total jackass and pushing stereotypes and understandings that the common person now, under 20, does not ascribe to. Is that the word to it? Subscribe, aligning with. They don't believe in those old racist, backward politics. So now there is a segment of society, non-Caucasian, non-white folks, or white folks, in a non-black world that are just as frustrated as we are. And I believe that those are the people that you now see wanting to go out there and riot, because they've been sitting in the homes of their parents who have been pushing this bullshit for so long that that's the only way that they can react.
So what happened? What they were there in 2012 and 2014 too.
But they were babies.
You still have the same group. The kids that are out here rioting for the most part are kids. It is babies. Like, they're the same age, like 15, 17.
The people that are out there that I can see that are rioting are the 22, 23, 25-year-olds that are now have been pushed a narrative that they're understanding that is false. Those are the anarchists. Those are who is Trump trying to make the Antifa. Mm-hmm. Those are not the 15, 16, 17-year-old folks. Mm-hmm. The organized militias that have been, have you heard of the Boogaloo Boys?
No.
Okay, do some research. And that's not a slight or a knock. But those are the people that are trying to infiltrate the situations because that's their normal. Everybody wants to live in their own normal.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
Okay, so now the new normal for the United States is that we can all get along. Now, I sat here and it was quiet because everything that you're saying, I agree with. I believe that African Americans need their own everything. And when you come to my house, you need to take your shoes off if that's the rules of my house. Mm-hmm. You need to take your hat off if you're inside of my house. You can't come into my house wearing shoes and a cover and being wet and bring a gun and those types of things. That is the younger generation, your generation. That's how they understand America to be. Now you have older people pushing a narrative that they don't agree with. So now that's where you see the clash. My thing a year, 18 months ago, was that black people need to just stay out of this and let these white folks fight it out. Because you got young white folks fighting against old white folks. Black folks don't have a dog in the fight. All we want is them to stay on that side of the fence. If you all gonna fight, stay in your yard and fight. This is opinion, my Gerald Miller's opinion. And so that's how I see it.
And I partially agree with that, but I think
I know you.
With me, this is what's happened. What happened with George? Help me out. Last name.
Floyd.
George Floyd was. We saw it from our perspective as a black issue because it was a black man being killed by a white officer. Society saw it as a system who now is killing this man.
Society doesn't. It matters what we saw. We
are
the society that matters.
It matters. Everybody's perspective matters. Before, they only saw a lot of those issues as black issues. For whatever reason, however they defined it. I just would think that the perspective is that when you saw Mr. Floyd being killed, we as black people saw a black man being killed by a white police officer. White folks saw a police officer killing a man. Same perspective, different viewpoints. And I think that is what's galvanizing all of these marches, is that no matter how you define it, it's wrong.
But I think that there's a demarcation, and it's a young and an old.
True.
Because I think that the older people that are speaking about the issue of the death, the older Caucasian or white folks, they could care less. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it is.
But those people are dying off, though, Joe.
That is the difference.
Yeah,
is that young people are taking their place, and the young people have a different perspective.
True.
The older people are dying off, and they, thank you God, are dying off, and are able to replace those hateful ways that they've been pushing out there.
So think about this. The people who went to segregated schools, black or white, or even Hispanic here in California who went to segregated schools, they're in their 70s now. They're in their 70s into their 80s. So that generation who either lived through it from the benefactor part of it, from white America who benefited from it, or from the African American in the South and the Hispanic out here in the West, from the negative side of it, those are the people that are dying off. So I agree with you. That whole mindset is gone. And
that mindset is still alive and well.
Agree. I'm not saying it's dead. I'm saying it's dying.
It's not dying.
Oh, it's too bad we up at
That's
9
why
o'clock.
I was quiet.
We'll have to invite you back so we can continue this conversation. Because if everything evolves and everything changes. It doesn't always change the way we want it to. It doesn't always change at the speed we want to. But there are a lot of things that are happening now that are different. What happened with Mr. Floyd was acceptable in society with no questions asked in my lifetime. 50 years ago, if he would have done that, there wouldn't have been any question. Floyd would have been killed in that line of duty. The police officer would have been able to go home. Nobody would have asked any questions. Maybe some folks would have got upset about it who saw it and stuff, but it would have been just the Minneapolis people who in that city who would have seen it. It wouldn't be the nation.
But you also didn't have social media at that time.
Same thing would happen with King.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that there's a possibility that he can get out from under this, the murder?
I do not.
You don't?
I do not.
And you?
Unless they did something.
Miss Jackson?
Unless there's some kind of technical error.
Oh, okay.
They did Mirandizing. They handled the evidence incorrectly, something like that. Then of course he can get off. But as far as him being absolved or his job duties as an police officer being, I don't know how to say it. So in some cases, police officers go into a place and they get startled and they shoot. And there's an immunity that goes along with that because it's in the line of their duty. What that dude did to Mr. Floyd was not in the line of his duty. That was beyond. So I don't, other than a technicality, I don't see that dude getting off.
Okay.
Nor do I see the other two officers who physically was in contact with him getting off either.
They're definitely going to get off. And Graham versus Connor,
I don't know anything about that.
read it. That went to the civil court and allows police officers the immunity to say they believed that they feared for their lives.
That's very true.
And that's all and to make sure that that is an issue, the jury is instructed on that.
So can a dead man threaten your life?
No, that's why we started getting to wear body
A
cam.
dead man can?
Well, I'm going to say.
So the reason I bring that up is in their report, one of the other officers took Mr. Floyd's pulse and reported to the dude who was on his neck, I do not have a pulse.
Right.
That's a dead man.
Okay.
So now the officer is going to have to justify his fears of a dead man.
I was in such a traumatic state that I didn't understand what was going on with me. For that time, I thought that I had to subdue him by my training, by putting my weight on him. I'm telling you what he's going to say, and I'm telling you what's going to happen.
By his training, that's why he was fired. He did not use his training.
But that's an administrative issue. That's not a legal standard that the Supreme.
When you go in there and say your training told you to do A,
Okay, so let me ask you.
and you're getting fired because you did B.
Let me ask you a question. How many police officers have killed people, and how many have been convicted of the murder?
I know one, and it happened to be in that same Minnesota. I think he was Ethiopian officer who shot that European lady. He doing time right now because of what he did in the line of his duty.
Okay.
So Minneapolis is in a pickle.
So this is something that was said earlier. Why it's important to vote for your
local
district attorney, because that's why they're trying to move the district attorney, the powers out of the district attorney's hand in that county, because he has a history of not prosecuting the police.
Yeah, Amy Klobuchar as well. Anyway, we're up against it. We're out of time. Ms. Jackson,
Tennessee.
you promised to come back?
Yeah,
Okay.
She said, yeah.
We got to have a further discussion.
I'm down.
No, you're not done. You just.
I said I'm down.
Oh, I thought you said done. Like, no, you ain't never done. You didn't.
All African Americans read Tennessee versus Garner, understand that case. It'll tell you why it was okay for officers to shoot fleeing felons or fleeing criminals. They didn't even have to be felons and get away with it. Supreme Court case. Also Graham versus Connor, which says that a police officer's belief, and 22 years on the force, a police officer's belief is okay to get them off.
Okay.
Supreme Court.
I would love.
Those need to be changed.
Agreed.
Those issues need to be changed.
That's the next that's the part that I was talking about with the bodies and voting and registration. So that's another conversation. Anyway, Ms. Jackson, any parting words for our audience?
Thank you for having me. I
No,
appreciate
not to
it.
us,
Oh.
for them.
For us too, it's okay. You don't let you.
Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, I guess. I don't know.
Thank you for coming out to your event you put together.
Oh, by the way, the question I was going to ask you, one of them is what's next, but we'll
What's next?
have to get to that next time.
Oh, we have a lot coming up.
Okay.
So
Send it
just,
to
I
us.
guess, Stay
Send it
tuned.
to us so we can send it out for you. We'll use our airways to be able to get that information out for you.
That's so dope. Thank you.
Tennessee versus Garner. Graham versus Connor. Register to vote. Stay black.
What about the census?
Love, peace, and hair grease.
So, hey, do your census. 2020census.org. Go there right now, get that done. Anyway, we'll see you again next Tuesday, 8 p.m. right here on Supermex. I don't know if it's a channel or Supermex International, whatever it is on Facebook. We'll be right back here. You've been listening to In Touch with the Miller Boyzzz, your weekly talk show about all things impacting the African American community here in Fresno and the larger surrounding area. Till next week, God willing, see you guys then. Peace.